I've always liked to tidy up in the attic, as this old house hides many forgotten things, but this time, I had a feeling there might be something special here. I hadn't been up here in a long time, and I always thought there was nothing interesting left. When I opened the chest, there was a slight rustling. Everything was covered in dust, but there was a box on top that immediately caught my attention. It had a small lock on it. With each passing moment in it, I felt like I was about to uncover something important. The box opened with a soft click, and before me lay a real collection of jewelry. Gold rings, bracelets, and earrings with emerald stones. That these looked like treasures that once belonged to someone important. But what struck me most were the strange engravings on some of the pieces. Ordinary jewelry doesn't have these kinds of symbols. These were marks I'd seen before in books about ancient cultures and secret societies. I couldn't shake the feeling that these weren't just old pieces of jewelry. There was something more to them, something hidden in their design. They felt like they were part of a bigger story, one I need to uncover. I decided to start with a simple search. I typed in everything I knew about the engravings and symbols. To my surprise, I came across articles that mentioned similar symbols. It seemed like I was on the trail of something much bigger than I initially thought. Everything fell into place when I saw this symbol. It was exactly the same as the one I had seen on the jewelry, the triangle with an eye in the center, the Masonic symbol. But what did these pieces mean, and why did they end up in my hands? I kept asking myself, who could have left these items in the attic? Maybe they were things that weren't supposed to be found. Who was their owner, and why were they abandoned in this old house? The ring especially caught my attention. This piece was different from the others. Its intricate design and craftsmanship suggested that it was made by a master, someone far more skilled than anything I had seen before. I needed to know more about who could have made such things in past centuries. Historians claimed that jewelry linked to Masonic symbols was once part of European aristocracy's heritage. These weren't just trinkets, they were historical artifacts. I realized I couldn't figure these pieces out on my own. So I decided to call in an antiques expert. I dialed several numbers, but only one person answered. His voice was confident as he began to tell me about the value of such items. These are incredibly rare items. Jewelry with Masonic symbols was only created for the elite, and the quantity was limited. What you've found is not just jewelry, it's historical treasure. Its value could be astronomical. Freemasons weren't just a secret society. They were a network of influential people who stood behind key historical events. These jewels were their symbols worn by those who were part of this hidden world. The owners were secretive, but their legacy remains in these pieces. I was torn between two choices: sell these jewels for a fortune or keep them as part of my own story. The value was clear, but perhaps the history they represented was worth more than money. I made my decision. Selling these jewels would not only bring me money, but also answers to many questions. I contacted a major auction house to get a proper valuation. The expert began examining the pieces, and I could see the astonishment on his face. It was clear. These items were worth far more than I had expected. He was talking about hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions. When I heard the price, my heart raced. The auctioneer had just confirmed that these items would fetch an astronomical amount. I was in disbelief. What I had found was worth far more than I could have ever imagined. The jewels were carefully packed, ready to be displayed at the auction. It felt surreal, but I knew it was the right choice. The pieces were about to take center stage, and I would finally learn their true worth. The day of the auction arrived. Bidders filled the room, all eager to get their hands on these rare treasures. As the bidding began, I could feel the tension in the air. Everyone knew this was no ordinary sale. And then it happened. The final bid came in, and the jewelry was sold for an amount I never could have dreamed of. It was a record-breaking sale, but more than that, it felt like a moment of closure. I had uncovered a piece of history that would now be preserved for generations to come.